2024, the Major John Leroy Haynes Florida Veterans History Program was created to collect and preserve the stories and experiences of Florida's veterans and to recognize the state of Florida's military contribution throughout our nation's history. Through recorded interviews, the Florida Veterans History Program Oral History Collection acts as a living archive of first-hand accounts to capture the details of military service and the voices, memories, and reflections of the Floridians who served. The Major John Leroy Haynes Florida Veterans History Program is operated by the Department of State, Division of Arts and Culture's Florida Folklife Program. Together, we are proud to ensure that Florida's military history is preserved, honored, and shared. My name is Julian Duncan with the Florida Department of State, Division of Arts and Culture, Florida Folklife Program. Today is May 16th, 2025. The time is 1:21 p.m., and I'm interviewing Juan Dueñas in Miami, Florida. This interview is being conducted for the Major John Leroy Haynes Florida Veterans History Program and will additionally be submitted to the Library of Congress Veterans History Project. So good afternoon, Mr. Dueñas. To begin this interview, will you please tell me when and where you were born and a little bit about your childhood?
I was born in Matanza, Cuba in 1957. I'm part of the Operation Pedro Pan. 62, I came over with about 14,000 unaccompanied children, different ages. The family knew exactly who Fidel was by 1959. They knew he was going to be communist. So with Operation Pedro Pan, it was a Christian religious freedom flights for 14,000 children. I was lucky enough to be one of them, or unlucky, whatever you want, because I didn't come with my parents. And a lot of them didn't see their parents until 1966, 67. But my grandparents were here. So 3 days later, they found me. And they took me in. My mom arrived here about 2 months later. And then a year later, my dad came in a raft from Cuba. And we had to go pick him up in Key West.
So if I'm doing the math right, you would have been 5 years old at this time?
5 years old, yes.
Do you remember anything about that experience?
Don't remember a single thing. I don't remember. It's kind of hard. 5 years old, it's kind of hard to remember exactly. I just going by what my family told me, the stories I've heard. That's the only reason I know.
Did you come over with any siblings, or was it just
No,
you?
I was just, my siblings were born here.
Okay. And so you came over, settled in Miami?
Yeah, we settled the first year in Miami, but with a lot of Cuban family arriving here once the family unit were placed together. Different religious group. They didn't want the congregation of Cubans in Miami back in those days. So the family unit were distributed throughout the United States. After my dad arrived, about a couple months later with the church group, we were sent to Evanston, Illinois. We were there for 2 years at Evanston, Illinois. One of my brothers was born there in Chicago, and I still remember that. I remember because the school I went to was, the name of the school in Evanston, Illinois was Washington Elementary School, and that's why I pick up English. I got to a point that I was not able to communicate with my parents because I was speaking just English at school, and it was rough. For my parents, for me to communicate with them, I had to point to things like refrigerator, I have to point this, I want to drink water, type of thing, had the number signals with my parents because it got to a point that, you go to English school, all you do is learn English, you forget your Spanish, which I did. I was young. Until we got back to Florida. 2 years later, we came back to Florida. My parents settled here. My father worked in a factory, cabinet, Rigglewood Products. The name of the factory was my dad worked. And my mom, when we came back here, she did not work at the time. Dave around, she had to go find a work at a nursery, plant nursery later on. But that's extended. And my other brother, my smaller brother, was born here in Miami. So my other two siblings were born here.
And what were you like as a child and going through school and in those years?
As a child, I tried to learn. I had a small speech impairment. Simple reason is I was kind of dyslexic because of the Spanish and the English. It was kind of rough for me, for different words that I could not pronunciate. So I was taken to a speech therapist, and for about 3 years, I was going to a speech therapist, trying to focus on English for school. But I picked Spanish back up in the streets, not in school. So you meet friends, and but that's about it. Typical kid. Mainly we were more out in the streets, playing. I used to break my mom's broomstick with a tennis ball to play baseball in the middle of the street with a tennis ball. And of course, we play football in the streets. We play cards. We used to get decks of baseball players and play for the numbers, the highest numbers. Guess the person's deck, whoever you put down, you bet the cards. No money, it was just cards. And of course, the marble game, the circle, you I used to have 3 bags full of marbles because I used to have a crown marble that I enjoyed, because that crown marble used to take all the marbles out of the circle as a kid. So they hated me when I was playing marble. But typical stuff, no Nintendo. No iPads. We were actually out in the streets.
Good.
Playing.
And did you know from a young age that you gravitated toward the military, or was that a later decision? How did you come by?
I decided to be in the military because to give something back to this country they gave my parents. They gave me freedom. So I decided to raise my right hand and give back to this country what the country gave me. And one thing was freedom. And I'm very proud to say that was my dedication, to give something back to this country.
And what I think you initially enlisted in the Army, is that correct?
Army. I went in 76, right after high school. I raised my right hand. I think it was November of 76, excuse me. I raised my right hand. If I remember right, I was in boot camp in 1977. In boot camp, I was in Fort Jackson, Tank Hill, World War II barracks, upper and downer wooden barracks. And that's why I did boot camp. Then I went to MP school in Fort McClellan. Fort McClellan, the MP school was pretty neat because I really did learn a lot. We did accident scenes. We did murder scenes. They had different rooms. We come and you do investigations for ballistics, and we did a lot. But the traffic accident scene was the best. I enjoy that because you actually plot the accidents on the form, military form. And you learn to write tickets, and everything that has to do with law enforcement. I did learn a lot from McClellan.
So did you know at this point, enlisting as an MP, that you wanted to pursue a law enforcement career outside of the military?
Not really. I never thought about it. I just came upon a few years later, once I joined the Air Force. I went to the Air Force in, trying to remember, 1978, after the Army. I went to Homestead Air Force Base as a reservist. Later on, I enjoyed what I was doing as security police. Back then, it was called the security police. Later on, they changed the name back in the mid-'80s. I changed the name to security forces. And I was able to join. Went later on. I found myself a job with the Department of Correction in the state of Florida, and then there I did 29 years as a correction officer.
While serving as a reserve.
While serving as yes in the Air Force.
What led you to switch from the Army to the Air Force?
Beg pardon?
What was your what led you to switch from the Army to the Air Force?
As the Army, you didn't get to travel that much. Mainly, it was, remember, I was part of the Army National Guard in Florida. So you really didn't do that much traveling. I was doing an air show at Homestead Air Force Base in, I think it was 78. I was doing an air show. And they were starting the unit, the 915th WSSF, Weapons System Security Flight. It was a new reserve unit. And I was doing traffic detail to the base for the air show at the base. A young lieutenant came up to me and says, "Hey," I'll never forget him, Lieutenant Mongavin. He later on became security forces, in charge of all overall security forces, the reserves in Washington, D.C. later on in life. But he was a young lieutenant. Say, "Hey, we're starting a reserve unit. You know, you're sharp. You're well dressed, you know how to handle traffic, and you should come and join us. And later on, we will get a chance to travel. You'll get a chance to travel to different parts of part of the world." It looked good. So I went to headquarters, military headquarters, National Guards here in Florida, and trying to get out. They didn't let me out. It took a couple other full-bird colonels to say, "Okay, you can switch over to the Air Force Reserves." So I did. I was getting a chance to do that. And I traveled to 29 countries of the world. And in 30-some years, I went to 29 countries of the world.
Wow.
As a reservist in the Air Force.
That's amazing. What country stood out to you? What are a couple of assignments or places you went that stood out?
Germany is one of my best. Been to Germany about 4 times. I like Germany because the weather, the people are great. I'm honest, the beer is fantastic. You can go to any place in Germany and just sit in a little bar outside. You know, and people just are pleasant. They come by, they see you, you're drinking a beer, eating Wiener Schnitzel, and you just relax there. People don't bother you. They don't come up and bother you. It's an old feeling that the towns I used to be in, because I did travel within there. Holland was kind of interesting. I never seen so much stuff in Holland that it surprised me. I went to different parts in Germany. Nuremberg. I was there in Nuremberg. I went to see where they did the trials of the German. The courtroom still is still the same time stop there. Nuremberg courtroom. People get to visit it. It's like time stop. Different other places. I went to El Salvador. I went to Turkey. Nicaragua. London, England. I was in London, England too. Kuwait. I was in Kuwait. After September 11, I was in Kuwait. So I did travel a lot. Just a few places I contained.
And what kind of assignments were you doing? Were these training exercises? What kind of assignments? I'm sure it varied in that many.
We did a lot of training. I was in Silver Flag Alpha, which is like a desert environment, training getting us ready to, well, we never expected September 11 when it happened, but we were training for the desert because that was our MOS type of thing. As a security force member, it shifted from security police to security forces. As a security force member, we did more than just being police in bases. We were force protection. We were assigned to special details. Some of us went something called the Raven program, protecting aircraft. In other words, you were inside an aircraft. When the aircraft landed in other parts of the world, the security force member comes out of the aircraft and does the 360 protection of resources. That's when like a C-5 Galaxies lands, or a 141 lands, KC-137 lands. We did force protection of the aircraft in other parts of the world, and protecting our pilots too. We were armed inside the aircrafts.
And so 9/11 happens, and how long had you been in the military at this point when 9/11 occurred? And
Oh God. I was already a master sergeant. So when 9/11 happened, I must have already been in almost 20 some years.
Wow.
Because I retired in 2007. 9/11 was 2001. So I was already a master sergeant. After 9/11 happened, by the September 27, I got the orders. On the 27th of September, I got strict orders to chapter 10 to be activated. We were doing force protection of Homestead Air Force Base, reinforcing our perimeters. And then a certain individual like me, myself and another master sergeant, we got sent to MacDill Air Force Base. At MacDill Air Force Base, it was one of the most most interesting assignment that I ever had. I was in charge at the beginning. I was in charge of Alpha Flight, and I had over 230 to 250 young men and women from all over the continental United States, active duty, reserves, and Air National Guard. It was a combined effort. There was 4 units, 4 flights, Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, and Delta. We had the Panama schedule. Panama schedule is 3 days, 3 days on, 2 days off, 3 days on, 3 days off. Every other weekend, like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we were off. Twice a month. I was Alpha Flight and Bravo Flight with day shift, and Charlie and Bravo were night shift. And if anybody know what MacDill Air Force Base is, that's Central Command. And we have to distribute security all over that base. Our main focus sometimes that had to shut down the base was anthrax scare coming in through the mail, through the post office. They found white powder, shut down the base. So during the day, we're really busy during the day. I had a Marine Patrol, Air Patrol, and a Bike Patrol. Plus the flight line. I had a whole bunch of soldiers out there in the flight line. And Central Command. I had individuals in SOCCENT and Central Command. So our 200 and some young men and women was scattered throughout the whole base to secure the base. And that was their job, force protection.
At a very important base like that, and was that a lot of pressure being in a leadership position?
That's why I say it was a lot of pressure. I was the leader of that squad, that A flight, for about about 5 months, and then the military started assigning lieutenants fresh out of OCS school, and I got my first lieutenant, and of course she had nothing to. She had a kind of a quick study thing about security police or security forces. For her, it was a learning experience. And of course, she relied more on me because of my 20-some years of experience in law enforcement. Like I said, I was already a correctional officer. I had a lot of training, a lot of stuff under my belt when that happened. I was a defensive tactics instructor, range master, the DT instructor, that defensive tact. I had a lot of schooling behind me already.
Yeah.
So she relied a lot on me and my skills and my knowledge to teach her.
Yeah.
So, but it was challenging. That was still challenging that whole year and year and 2 months I was there.
Mm-hmm. Curious about, just lower on this topic. You're interfacing with junior officers, with junior NCOs and junior enlisted, presumably with senior officers to some extent as well, as in your position as a senior NCO in this assignment, and then of course all the civilian experience that you brought to the table as well. Did you kind of how did you think about yourself in a leadership position? Did you have something of a philosophy behind that, or just what was your approach to leadership in that kind of
Well,
position?
when September 11 happened, I remember I already had about 20 some years under my belt to begin with. I was a sergeant in the Department of Corrections. So to me, it was not that difficult, per se, because as a sergeant in the Department of Correction, you're the main sergeant. There's other sergeants in the wing in the unit. I was assigned under a captain in the Department of Corrections. So it was not difficult for me as a leader position. It was challenging because when you're dealing with different way of thinking of the individuals, different ethnic groups, different sex, in other words, man and a woman. Of course, things are challenging. I'm not going to say because I still had to sometimes talk to my junior enlisted, tell them, hey, you're doing this wrong. I always learn if it's a female present. I brought another female senior sergeant with me. So you tend to learn how to protect yourself legally and liability. So I've always learned that in a long career, my study, because even at the Department of Corrections, I did the same thing when I became a captain. When I had to bring a female sergeant or female officer to say, hey, you're doing this wrong, or you can have this relationship with this inmate, which they were occurring, or was happening. Oh yeah. So, that was the end of her career. But when I still did those type of things, talking to them about it and bringing the subjects up about it, I always had other people present. Because you learn you don't do things like that by yourself, because accusations are always there and is always present in everything you do on a daily basis. So I did come with experience when I was duty at MacDill Air Force Base, because like I said, that was a whole different world for me. Not many people.
The way that your civilian experience and your military experience, and of course, are very similar fields in many ways, and so it seems like there's a lot of transfer of experience here, which is fascinating to me. And I wonder if you want to talk a little bit about balancing a very involved reserve career, going to 29 countries in 30 years, being involved in this leadership position immediately post 9/11. By this point, having some rank at the Department of Corrections, being eventually made captain there. What was your experience of balancing civilian and military career? What was that? What were the challenges? What were the benefits? Interface with your employers?
To be honest with you, there's no difference. You just have to. It's the knowledge. I went through a lot of schools. Going through a lot of schools, you tend to learn a lot. You tend to balance civilian and military. my background between the Department of Corrections and the military, it's almost the same thing. Like police, it's a type of a military format, because even in the Department of Corrections or as a police officer, you got lieutenants, you got sergeants, you got majors, you got colonels, and you got, your higher out. So it's a pre-military type environment on both civilian in that aspect of law enforcement. Now, if I was an attorney or a lawyer, or if I was a construction worker, it's a big difference how you handle yourself. Oh yes, it's two different worlds. To say, it's just a different world. But law enforcement is a military structure.
Mm-hmm.
What I've learned throughout the years, and law enforcement and the military is almost the same thing. You're just dealing with civilian population compared to the military's population, or the military aspect of expecting a war or peacetime protection, force protection in peacetime. So there's actually no difference in law enforcement and military except where you're at.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Sounds like in both of those career paths, you probably are dealing with, or at least there's always the potential to deal with, very intense situations.
Always.
And I wonder, if you have some experiences you'd be willing to share in that regard, and how you manage and process those.
Well, I do have PTSD. You try to focus between the civilian law enforcement. I'm behind jail. I'm behind a facility. I'm actually incarcerated with criminals. State of Florida, we have a lot of criminals. I was in 3 major institutions. And do we have uses of force? Yes. Do we have anything in crime that develops outside the civilian population, develops inside the prison system too? Rape, robbery, murder, assault. And we had quite a few. I did 29 years in 3 major facilities, so we had quite a few. I myself have to save a couple officers' lives, whether being beaten. I have to jump in, and some of my other officers, we try to quell the situation. In the military portion of it, you're always looking over your back, just like behind prison, you'd be doing the same thing. But it's different out there in the military, because when I was in Kuwait, you don't know who's who. And in prison, you know who's who. You kind of have a third eye behind your head in prison, because you know who they are, what they've committed. Out there, when you're in other parts of the world, doing force protection of your aircraft, your property, your men, overall force protection, you don't know who's out there. It's a different world. I was in Salvador for New Horizon for the kids, building some hospitals and some schools. And my job was force protection of civil engineers that were out there. CBs were out there building schools. So we were doing force protection in an area, and Salvador is very anonymous with MS-13s. So we had to provide security for them when they were building out there in the middle of nowhere. They were building schools and clinics in the middle of nowhere where they're known gang members. So we're out there with MPs, El Salvadorian MPs, and we were armed to the teeth because MS-13s don't care who you are, and I know who they are. We've been trained for it. So that was like I said, in prison, you know who they are. But in the civilian portion of it, like in the military or over there, you don't know who's out there. So you're a little bit more cautious about it. And that's pretty much the difference between the law enforcement and civilian career field and in the military career field.
There's a question I always like to ask, and I think this leads into it. I always like to ask about humor in the military in general, in a deployed environment, you know, in day-to-day life, just kind of what kind of jokes went around, if you have funny experiences you can remember. And I think this kind of leads in too, because I'm thinking about also humor as a coping mechanism for some of these intensive experiences. So maybe that's a two-part question. What kind of experience with humor did you have in your time in the military or in law enforcement?
Well, some of well, in training, every time we went to training, because I went to a lot of schools with a lot of these guys, which we know each other. We have our phone numbers. We actually had a reunion with a whole bunch of my guys from the old group, the old school security forces. They play practical jokes. In military, in civilian population, we didn't. But in the military, yeah, you're cooped up. You're in a foxhole. You're in a fighting position. Did the pranks? Of course we did. It's a family. So our brothers and sisters of our military family, was pranks play? A lot of pranks. Well, they had some about some. The ones I can remember, somebody nailed on the old wooden. We were in a old wooden barracks, and somebody hammered the guy's bunk to the ceiling with his foot locker and everything locked up to the ceiling upside down. And the guy looked at it. Look at us. we were dying laughing.
That's a high effort prank.
Oh my God. Once we got out of the field, the pranks were there. I ain't gonna lie. We spent 2 and 3 weeks out in the field without bathing or not, So once we finally bathed and came back and we had a little liberty, the pranks were there. I still remember we were a Silver Flag Alpha. No, take it back. We were in Texas, in the field exercise in Texas. So we spent 2 weeks out in the field in tents. So we finally got back to the barracks. Then we were leaving in 2 days. So we said, okay, let's go have some fun. So the cadres brought some buses. They said, we'll take you to Bastrop, Texas. Bastrop. I can't hardly pronounce it. We went to a bar. Yeah, of course, the guy, we were talking about 40-some guys, 2 bus loads, 40-some guys. And, of course, we get a little rowdy. Well, ATF agent was there drinking too with us. And he says, you guys, you're all a little bit too loud, ain't you? I said, well, sir, we just got out of the field. Says, he brought his badge as well. You need to leave this bar. And he brought his badge. And at that time, there was 40 of us there. 39 of us brought out our badges. So it was a show off of badges. Everybody putting the badge on tables and putting their badges out, because the majority of our guys were on law enforcement, including myself. I have my little badge too. And so we had 2 FBI agents with us, 6 Florida Department of Law Enforcement agents, Broward Sheriff's Office, City of Miami police officer, Dade County police officer, West Palm Beach police officer. It was hilarious. he pulled out his badge. We all pull out our badge too. Eventually, he threatened to close the bar because he could do that. He threatened to close the bar, and we didn't want to ruin the owner that night. So we all decided to put our badges back in our pockets and leave. But we were just cracking up about the whole situation. Because even our commander was there. He pulled out his badge. He was a lieutenant for Broward Sheriff's Department. So we were just laughing. And oh my God, that was hilarious that night. Of course, next day we went to another those town and stuff like that around that area. It was a little bit more peaceful. But the following day we left. But we do play pranks about each other. We really do. Just make it fun. But in corrections, no. It's a different world.
So
weird, in the military, you train, you're together. In the Department of Correction, you go home. Do we see each other? Every once in a while, we meet. If we work midnights, we go to Danny's to meet up for breakfast. But out of the 20-some officers working that night, maybe 5 show up at Danny's or 6 show up at Danny's to have breakfast before we go home. But that's the only difference. And our shift, our 8-hour shift, we go home. In the military, you're together. You fight together, you train together, you live together. And that's the way it's in the military. That's why we're a family, brothers and sisters.
yeah, that makes a huge difference, even for short periods. Sleeping in barracks together, and
Yes,
it's a very unique experience.
it's a different world. And until today, do I do anything for them? I will do anything for them.
You mentioned the schools you've been to throughout your career, a number of those, and I'm kind of thinking about that in relation to some of this. I mean, sometimes the school environments can be a lot of material packed into a very short amount of time, and they're putting you in orders, and they're gonna get what they can in that short amount of time. And just in light of the friendships, in light of the kind of going through something together, do you feel like those were kind of, it's a small world, right? Did you run into people you knew from one school to the next? Did you run into people you knew from different units or from different training environments? And what were a few of the schools, the 2-part question, what were a few of the schools that really stood out to you that you went to?
Urban warfare. I went to the urban warfare, Fort Hood. They call it different names now. I don't care. To me, it's still Fort Hood, Fort Jackson, Fort McClellan. That's my bases I've been to in the Army. Urban warfare was really interesting. I got to learn a lot about the environment of what people go through to clear houses, buildings, holes, gutters, because it's a different environment. So I did learn a lot. Desert survival. I went to desert survival school. Navigational, mapping and compass navigational school, which I was really interested in that one too. Jungle training. I went through some jungle training, not the extent of what the special forces go through, but a little bit into surviving in the wood environment, camouflage and concealment. I've been to in Langley with drug interdiction, air and ground drug interdiction. That was really interesting because I was mainly in helicopters or a plane, following, detecting. In the Salvador, I was mainly on a Black Hawk. I did a lot of flying in Black Hawks. Besides other aircrafts, KC-135 to Brazil. I was in Brazil. We flew from Homestead to Brazil in KC-135. We actually saw the refueling of our aircraft, F-16s. That was really interesting, the way it refuels. We were actually in our stomach next to the boom operator. There's 2 other seats on the sides of there. You're actually sitting down, and when they're bringing down the nozzle into our aircraft and they're refueling in midair.
Wow.
That was the most interesting thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah.
Other aircraft that I've been associated with is stealth fighters. When I first came into MacDill Air Force Base, I was able to see up close and personal with a stealth fighter. But other countries, El Salvador was pretty interesting. They did a lot of reserve rotation. I spent 6 months in El Salvador. And I was the liaison every time the members flew into the airport. I was the liaison, greet them, and run them through immigration and customs. Because I was working with the U.S. Embassy there. So I got copies of all their orders before they even landed. And I was at the airport before they land. I gave the information to the customation and immigration agents. I was able to walk inside the airport itself. It was really neat. The police officers greeted me like, they used to call me the mayor of San Vicente, because I was that close to the national police. Of course, I had to be liaison to the mayors at the city where we were the camp out. That it was a tent camp with wooden structures, and the civil engineer group and the CV groups rotated in and out. The doctors rotated in and out there too, every 2 weeks. Reserve units from all over the United States. So I was the liaison at the airport, and it's really neat. When you walk into the airport, they know who you are, and they let you in. They don't say nothing to you, and you bring I greeted our military personnel at the gate itself when they get off the airplane. They say, everybody get their stuff. We go downstairs. We gave the piece of paper to all the custom agents knew me, and all the immigration agents knew me already by name. They used to call me Don Juan instead of by my rank. So I was a Don in El Salvador. And the funny thing is, the director of the airport, his name was Dueñas. Yes. So they thought I was affiliated with the director of the airport, because my last name was Dueñas.
Did you correct them on that, or just?
No, we met. No, we did meet. I met the director several occasions. He even invited me to his daughter's 15th party when I was aware. It was a good relationship with the mayor of San Vicente. It was a good relationship with the chief of police of the national police. And believe it or not, the national police in El Salvador has a lot of power. But just what I did over there was, if I told people about it, you're going to Miami with that report, walking to the gate. It'd be hilarious. But that was my job. Run them in, escort the other group going home.
Did your background with Spanish language help you in that assignment or other assignments in Latin America?
Most definite. With a lot of people, a lot of them didn't speak English. So that's where their Don came from. They didn't call me Master Sergeant Dueñas. They called me Don Juan or Don Dueñas. There was the word, the Don, in front of my last name. And it stuck because, like I said, I ran through all the custom agents, young men and women. They was just bending over backwards for me. Giving the papers, oh no, Don Juan, dale, vamos, type of thing, Customs, they didn't check none of my guys. So it was pretty neat. it's not like then we did at the end of the 2 weeks at the fort, because I was look the civil engineer group, our army civil engineer group over there in San Vicente looked like a fort, like a medieval fort. I used to bring bands over there and restaurants over there, so the guys the last day they were able to enjoy themselves at the location, and of course the beer. The restaurants are brought. So every time the town saw me, Johnny bought. Uh, it was an experience. I'm not gonna say in camera, but they were really receptive of me, and really respectful.
That's great. How did some of the training you went into? I'm just thinking about, we're post 9/11, especially. You talked a little bit about your post 9/11 experience in MacDill Air Force Base. And of course, combat operations are happening in Iraq and Afghanistan at this point in time. And so in those kinds of theaters, how did your training play into your day-to-day work? Do you feel like you were able to lean on some of that training in particularly deployed environments or combat environments?
How would I say this? We all train the same. We all go through the same training. Our military, everyone trains the same. If one man is down, the other man picks up exactly where he came down at. Supervision is basic fundamentals of military training. You know exactly what the job of the other person is. It's not like other theater operation. I learned that the individual is go say he knows how to hammer a piece of wood. This individual knows how to saw a piece of wood. Right? In other countries, that individual does that, and this individual does this. In our environment, we all pick up what the other one does or the other one can do. And that's what's great about our training and our style of training in the military, because when we went to urban warfare, we knew exactly what to do. Everybody knew exactly what to do because our commanding officer was there right next to us. He did the same thing we did. Our lieutenants, our major, he didn't sit back in a tent. He was right next to us. Why? Because he wanted to learn too. Even in all the post-wars, if they lost a commander, the battle still goes on, doesn't it? It's our form of training. We move forward. We don't look back. That's the way it is. That's the way we train.
So maybe a better way of phrasing that question would have been, because you're an NCO, a senior NCO, training is part of job description. So maybe a better way of to ask that then would be, how did you view your position as a well-trained leader to bring up subordinates and people below you and teach them and train them? How did you think about that from a leadership standpoint?
The same way. I always brought lower ranking next to me and say, this is the way we're going to do things. You always lead by example. And I'm a very strong believer that you lead by example. You trying to teach the right way of doing things. Of course, there's always a hiccup. We're only human. But you're always trying to bring your lower NCOs and trying to bring them up to your standards. They're all individuals. The only thing you can focus on is on the regular type of training, and hopefully they'll do this kind of the same job as what you used to do. I'm a very strong believer that you lead by example. And if you protect your men and back up your individuals, you're leading by examples. And I'm a very strong believer in that.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about, you're here now at the Miami Military Museum, and I want to ask you a little bit about what did you hear at the museum, and what led you to your position here at the museum.
History. My job is I'm the outsource educator. I go to schools and bring the history to the schools. I go out to different events and teach them the different aspect of the different wars from World War One all the way through the Gulf War. We have a lot of artifacts here, which I actually take with me to schools and different events that I show, and trying to bring the people or the education to them, and trying to bring them later on to the museum, because what I tell them is what's on this table that I brought to educate, there's more at the museum. And actually here in Florida, the history in Florida in itself, the military history, it dates back to 1513 when Ponce de Leon landed in Florida in this peninsula, way before the Pilgrim. So our history starts from there, here in South Florida. Of course, the Seminole Wars, I tell them we talk a little bit about Seminole Wars if they ask me. But my main focus is trying to bring them to the museum, or bring a little bit of the museum towards them, and we talk about the Congressional Medal of Honor, the Purple Heart, Spanish-American War, the Seminole Wars, of course, World War One, World War Two, which this building is mainly focused more on World War Two because it was Naval Air Station Richmond, and it dates back to 1942, when it first opened up its doors. So that's my main function, is to bring information and education as much as I can. And sometimes I tell the teacher or the school exactly what they want from me. Some teachers want from me talk more about the Congressional Medal of Honor. Some of them telling me about military history. So it all depends on the requirements, but I always bring my helmets, my gas mask, canteen. The kids love to hear about toilet paper for some reason. And our MREs, the K ration, a little strip of paper, and our MRE is a little strip of paper. They're so fascinated. How do we use it? Which I can't say for the camera. But how that little piece of paper is used and when it's needed. And sometimes I make a joke and say, you put a little bit of water and it swells up. So that's one of my jokes I'd bring the kids. They say, really? Yeah, I tell the special paper. But all kidding aside, they're so, I bring these things here, and they're more fascinated about the toilet paper than anything else.
That's a very valid concern.
Oh, God. But it's really neat, these kids, when you talk about military history and the things we go through in the field. The multi-purpose shovel that has about 4 uses. Our canteen with a canteen cup inside, which has different uses too. They're so fascinated. They just sometimes says, we didn't know that. Really? That's their expression. You can see the expression in their eyes that the knowledge I bring to them. They're really fascinated. They're really enjoying themselves. All depends. I mainly talk to middle school, high school, and middle school. But I've been to elementary schools, and show and tell, they love it. Those little kids all love show and tell, which I'm glad I do bring a little bit of military history to our young folks here in Dade County itself.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's great. Yeah, I always ask this question, but it feels very pertinent on the heels of that. What's something that you would say to future generations? I mean, not just to young people, but maybe especially to young people about service, about the military, about history. Kind of about these broad concepts. So something you would say like as a message for future generations.
I'll start from a lot of the questions they ask me. One of the big questions these kids ask me, have I shot anybody? I tell them, it says, it's not shooting. Our main focus is to keep the peace. Our main focus is to protection. Our main focus is freedom. Not shooting because, like I tell them, in my 30-year career, one time for war, that's almost what, 96% that I was doing humanitarian. That 4%, yeah, the Gulf War. But that's the first one. The question that is shooting somebody is mainly protecting yourself. I want to tell you have to protect yourself. Here again, what I tell the young folks is finish school. Before you go in the service, go to college, become an officer. If your focus is in that, become an officer. Not enlisted, but get yourself educated. Learn everything you need to learn and focus on that. Respect your parents. Respect your elders. It's the basic fundamentals of being in the military is respect, honor, freedom, and guide yourself on who you are, respect who you are, believe in your background. Like a lot of kids are from Central South America. I always tell them, don't forget your heritage. The key thing is your heritage is who you are and learn from it. Your heritage will guide you in life. And just respect others and be kind to others. And that's what I normally tell the kids. It's something that is within you. And that's why I mainly focus on these young men and women when I speak with them in school. Respect this country. I'm a very strong believer in that.
Yeah, great message. Is there anything in this interview that we have not covered that you would like to talk about?
30 years, buddy. 30 years is 30 years. It's been a long haul for me. The camaraderie of my brothers and sisters in the military is, like I said, is a very strong belief in me. You tend not to think about things like that when you're young until you start speaking with older individuals then you start getting old yourself. I was going through my book of reorganizing my I call it my life book of all the special trainings, all the classes I've been through, civilian lives, military life. And I would say that's a part of me. And that will be a part of me. The military life will always be a part of me. And since I've been here at the museum, I've gotten more knowledge, you could say, about the things we've done in this world United States, what the United States stands for since 1775. Everything that Florida has gone through, the history, the rich history of this country, which is the youngest country in the world. You can foresee that. Oh, and it's just amazing. There's not much I can say. I did 30 years after this country gave my family freedom, and I'm very grateful for this country, what they gave my family. My family is gone, but I'm still here, and I'm still grateful for them.
I think that's really excellent final message, and you've certainly given back in numerous ways over a extensive career in service, both through law enforcement and military as well, and now giving back to the community through historic preservation and working with the community. And I think that's it's a really excellent final message. So thank you for your time today.
It was my honor. I can tell a lot of servicemen, and thank you for your service too.
Thank you for your service.
My honor.